Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And for the visitors, I hope there are many of you that will log on. Welcome. Today we want to discuss family health, and we are continuing with the theme for April. Today we are looking at those between the ages of 12 and 20. We know them as teenagers or adolescents, I suppose. So my name is Dr. Esther Zanambasi, very passionate about the Neolife family. My passion also is for family health. And that's because the family is the most important and most fundamental unit of any society. So if we can get our health right, I'm sure a lot of the dreams that we each have would be realized. So what we want to do is to prepare for life for the teenagers. As I've said, those between the ages of 12 and 20. And now for the guests, the reason for these sessions is basically to share with you ways of applying what we have in this family to everyday life. And that's why I call it Applied Neolife. We otherwise call it Team Training Tuesday. So here's some food for thought. Teenagers, and I hope there are many of you that will log on. Teenagers experience dramatic changes and undergo stressful situations and adjustments during those teenage years. And all of us who've been teenagers would probably relate to that statement. Now, once you get involved with what we want to share with you, you quickly realize that it all depends on how we look at things and not how they are in themselves. That was famously said by Carl Jung, a psychoanalyst and very famous, who did a lot of studies in psychology and sociology. So what does all that mean? Well, sometimes we feel things, we see things, we imagine things, and to us they're real. But it all depends on how we look at them. From what perspective are we looking at them? So during the teenage years, it's a time of developing independence and building relationships. So as you can see, it's literally a balancing act. Okay? It's a phase of life when people outside of the family influence the teenagers. Then school, if one is privileged or fortunate enough to go to school, takes a very central position in cognitive and emotional development. That could be, it can go either way. Again, it depends on how we look at it. And then another point, peer pressure is a real entity. Peer pressure is real. And in my opinion, since I've seen the rise and rise of social media, like many of you have, it seems to be heightened by social media. As a result, or perhaps as one of the spin-offs of all these things, is that traditions and family norms are constantly questioned by our youth, our teenagers. So teenagers create friendships, and this picture grabbed my attention because literally they walk away from the comfort zone called home, and they face puberty at the same time. Puberty can be a very, very trying time because of the hormonal changes. And I'm not going to go into great depths in all these situations. This is just to highlight what Neolife offers and what the opportunity itself of being part of this global family can offer to our youth so that they can look ahead with excitement and not with some sort of anxiety. Okay? Anxiety will always be there, but what I'm saying is that there is hope. So let's talk about hormonal changes. There is rapid growth that occurs in both female and males. It tends to happen earlier in girls. And puberty is a time for psychological adjustments as well as physical adjustments. Yeah. And the physical changes that occur may cause various responses. It really depends on how one looks at what is happening. So there is generally a need for guidance, yet one has to be so aware to respect the autonomy of the teenager. And that's what I meant by it is a tricky balance. And then they spend time in school. Those are the years when one can either enjoy school immensely or grow to dislike school. It really, really depends. And during that school, there is exam time and it is very stressful. So one of the things that the youth have to cope with is stress. So what are we saying? What we want to encourage is to develop a mindset that is a progressive mindset and to do that early. And really it starts by perhaps observing the people that you would call your role models, okay? And also your habits that you develop. So let's talk about those habits. Diet is very important. Sleep is very, very, very important. And I will spend some time on that. Why? Because I know during that age group, they think that sleep is overrated, but really it is important. And then stress reduction. We've said that it is a time of change. It is a time of both physical and emotional change, and therefore it can be very stressful. One has to look at building positive relationships and also know that as an integral person, there is a strong connection between spirit, mind, and body. So let's talk a little bit about sleep. I thought it was an interesting twist to this phase of development. So there was a sleep study that was conducted on identical twins at the University of Washington by a scientist called Dr. Nathaniel Watson. And this is what he said. What we show is that the immune system functions best when the body gets enough sleep. 7 or more hours of sleep is recommended for optimal health. Now, I bring it up because we need to develop these habits well into the future. How stress is caused by inadequate sleep, not sleeping adequately, the biorhythms, those are the rhythms that govern us. There is one called the circadian rhythm, which is over a 24-hour period, the daily rhythm, as it were. Those are controlled by 3 main organs in us. In the brain, the master control center is called the hypothalamus, and that one is influenced by dark and light. And then there's another gland in there called the pituitary. It is fed by impulses from the hypothalamus, but it is also the conductor of hormones. It churns out a lot of hormones, and many of the sex hormones are governed by what the pituitary produces. Now, as I've said, during that phase of development, people are changing physically and emotionally, and the secondary sexual characteristics develop at the time. So it's important to know that sleep is busily impacting what happens. And then further down, on top of the kidneys, are what we call the adrenals. Those are fed by the pituitary and the hypothalamus and whatever is going on in life. And they regulate the output of cortisol and adrenaline, the so-called stress hormones, and other hormones as well, but those are the key ones. So, what are the effects of sleep deprivation? There will be a rise in stress hormones. Then there is a marked reduction in T cell function. T cells are the immune cells, and that can reduce. Now, you can imagine that if one sets oneself up to have them reduced at that stage, that sets them up for sickness later in life. And then there is a marked rise in the bad type of inflammation in the event of sleep deprivation. And all that is connected to other conditions such as anxiety, depression, chronic stress, and rapid aging. So we are beginning to see that the point here, which we stress in this family called the Neolite family, is to have a long-range vision. So take care of your immune system so it takes care of you. I just want to talk a little bit more about those cells that I talked about, called the T cells. T cells fight pathogens that invade our cells. Cells such as viruses, cancer cells, the effects of bacteria and fungi, and all those pathogens. Then T cells recognize pathogens that they may have met at some point and activate proteins that attach to invaded cells and cause the pathogen or even the cell itself to die, to go through a process of apoptosis, that is programmed cell death. And then T cells in well-rested people show higher activation than T cells of those who don't sleep well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can see that having a long-range vision as value number 5 in our family can be applied, and that's what we talk about in Applied Neolife. So yes, adopt a long-range vision now, and there are other aspects such as overexertion or training can affect sleep. And this will result in mineral deficiencies such as magnesium, calcium, potassium, and it will cause the heart rate to remain high, consistent, for a long time. And then the body reads these signals as stress just by those deficiencies. This is made worse by a topic that we have touched on time and again, and I really want to keep revising these issues, but this is made worse by insulin resistance. And if you can remember, insulin resistance develops if one eats a lot of processed carbohydrates that are broken down into sugar, which then causes insulin spikes that are persistently high, and ultimately the cells become resistant to that persistently high insulin. Right. Then disruption of the microbiome. This is something else that we've talked about. And for the youth, please take these things seriously, because by the age of 40, most people have damaged microbiota. The microbiome is the bacteria and other organisms that live in the gut and also on the skin and other parts of the body. But the key one is the gut microbiome. As a result, hormonal imbalances and deficiencies can occur. And here is a hormone that we call oxytocin. We tend to talk a lot about hormones such as dopamine, serotonin, melatonin, all right? All those are very, very important. But we hardly speak about oxytocin. Now, oxytocin is a key hormone. It's going to make you enjoy relationships with people. In other words, you will see and value other human beings and wish to build relationships with them that can be progressive for society. And that's what we are looking for in applied neolife, or rather in this neolife family. And that's how you can apply it. Right, so tips for a great night's sleep. You can look at this later, but a few tips: have a cool room, make sure that it is dark, don't eat within 3 hours of sleep, avoid caffeine within, if possible, 8 hours. Now, I've seen a lot of youth literally live on coffee and all those caffeinated beverages. That's not a good idea. Get some sun exposure during the day. That is going to enhance melatonin, one of the hormones, and begin to wind down and avoid bright lights after sunset. And of course, exercise, as long as it is not too late and it is not the wrong one for you. Right, so with that in our minds, let us continue to connect these dots. Please remember that the environment at cellular level is key. And we've talked about our cells and the things within the cells. So I'm going to highlight them again for our visitors. But cells communicate and have a way of picking up and responding to chemical, electrical, and vibrational signals. These signals can originate from the environment, both within the body and outside the body, such as the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink, whatever touches the skin, our thoughts and feelings about ourselves and other people, and generally life. And remember, if we haven't created oxytocin, one of the hormones, yes, we're going to run into all sorts of trouble. And then electromagnetic fields around us. So where do we get all this information from? This is for the visitors. We belong to a family called the Neolife family. And we are taught a lot about how to take care of ourselves at the cellular level. And this is what we want our youth to do. We are made up of trillions of cells, over 70 trillion cells. And inside the cells are hundreds or thousands of mitochondria in each cell. I'll give an example. The heart cell has over 5,000 mitochondria in it, each cell of the heart muscle. Now that is phenomenal. And then billions of new mitochondria are created within us if the body has the right tools, okay? And all these facts are taught to us by the Scientific Advisory Board, who have done a lot of research and have developed phenomenal products. And they have created a way of tying all the products together so that we can appreciate how to look after ourselves at that level, at a cellular level. Now, let's talk a little bit about mitochondria, just to explain what they are, but I won't dwell too long on them. These are a delicate system, and the cells have several, as I have said, and what they do is that they generate adenosine triphosphate, which is the currency of energy. It is the energy currency, and it enables that cell to work. So their importance, and this is crucial, that's the place where our basic life requirements, namely air and food, are combined to create energy through biochemical processes. The one that we know of is Krebs cycle. Increasing mitochondrial function is one of the most effective ways to boost cellular energy and therefore enhance efficiency of every single biochemical reaction and cellular process in the body. So youth, if you can think about it, whether you are 12 or 20 or anywhere in between, if you start being aware of that now, and you look to role models that will teach you, and yeah, they're right here on this call today, this potentially can slow down the aging process. Now, what does that mean? It means that you will have a much healthier life going forward, well into the future. So, what do mitochondria need? These are what they need: glucose, magnesium, fatty acids, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamins. Specifically, they work very well in the presence of vitamin B, but also B complex, but also other vitamins that have antioxidant properties. And then L-carnitine and alpha lipoic acid, which is an antioxidant made naturally in the body and can be obtained from food as well. So when they are healthy, they can effectively kill off damaged, potentially cancerous cells that are produced daily. All of us are producing potentially cancerous cells, but because of our immune systems and the efficiency of the mitochondria, then they don't carry on to develop into cancer if functioning properly, right? So that's the importance. So the light bulb moment that I hope each one of you is having is this, that we can control the environment to which we are exposed, and therefore our genes, and therefore our mitochondria are exposed. We can control the expression of our genes. Mitochondria have lots of genes, genetic material. And just remember, youth, we are powerful creators. We can shift the expression of our genes and our physical manifestations. So we don't have to say, I come from such and such a family, and therefore I can't do anything about it. That's the long and short of that one, okay? Do remember that thoughts and things affect physical reality. And I've mentioned mindset. We need to be willing to actually change our mindset. Can you accept that things happen for a reason? Can you, for example, accept as a youth that you are listening to this for a good reason and you are willing to learn? And whoever invited you to this call, can you be grateful to them? Keeping a gratitude journal, I've always found very, very transformational. And are you willing to decide that, hey, let me just move forward? I have learned from the past, but now I want to stretch to the future. Future that you will learn about in this family can be very, very exciting. So yes, prepare for the future now. So I'm going to turn our attention to what Neolife has to offer. But first of all, remember to eat ordinary food and remember to do the basic daily activities such as exercise, good rest that we've talked about. I've talked about sleep and spending some time in sunshine. It has its role. And of course, drinking good quality water. But all that is made even more effective if you can appreciate why we need to supplement and why it is important to choose your supplements wisely. So at this point, I will introduce the company, showing you the Scientific Advisory Board. The company has a good track record because everything that they present to us is not genetically modified. It is fully traceable. It is whole food based for cellular nutrition. And it is created by those scientists and doctors that you have seen. And they prove clinically on human clinical studies that these products are efficacious. They do what they say they will do. And Neolife has a pharmaceutical license for manufacturing. So when you come to this family, you are in the best nutritional supplement family. This is our flagship product. It's called TreaNN, and it is about the only product that you will find that will give you lipids and sterols. Now, because we are talking about youth and their hormonal changes, lipids and sterols are critically important to support the formation of all the hormones in our bodies. And they are critical components for cells that support the transport of nutrients into and waste out of cells as well. Okay, so one finds with this product, which is available to whoever has now heard about it and wants to get it, there is increased energy, cellular health, vitality, and efficient nutrient utilization. We have it working in synergy with other products. So here is the TreaNN, but together with it, you can pair it with omega-3 salmon oil plus, carotenoid complex. That is a crucial product to fill that gap of fruits and vegetables that we are supposed to be getting a lot of, but we don't. So as a result, we fall back on the protective power of antioxidants. So that's why we have it as a supplement. And then vitamins and minerals. These are whole food vitamins, and then the minerals that we have undergone processes to ensure that they can be absorbed. So what I've done here on this collage is to put together a good program for a youth between the ages of 12 and 20. In other words, one in their teenage years. And I've called it targeted solutions or targeted nutrition. Before challenges begin, it is important to adopt the approach of preventative maintenance. And you can't go wrong. You can get everything in Pro Vitality and the shake. But let's say you're doing exams. You might want to add a daily cup of Neolife tea. You might want to use mind enhancement to increase the blood flow to the brain so that it improves your ability to learn and to retain what you have learned. You might want to improve your immunity by some added vitamin C. And by the way, during the teenage years, due to the skin conditions that can happen, yes, vitamin C would help with skin, as would vitamin B as well, and other products that we have. Then together with TreaNN and omega-3, this particular product called lipotropic adjunct, if vitamin B complex is not readily available, can cover that gap, and it is cost effective. And a lot of youth go through panic and anxiety attacks. And for example, during exam time, this would be a very good product. Then I would like to point out the importance of minerals, and minerals such as zinc, such as calcium and magnesium, right? All those are important for proper function of hormones. And Team Sophie, please stop doing that. Oh gosh. Right. Proper function of hormones. And so what we need to do is Tim, I'm going to put you out of the room. What we need to do is to realize that, yes, we might be eating as well as possible, but if stress becomes unbearable, it might be because you are mineral deficient, such as calcium and magnesium. Now, Maureen is doing the same thing. I'm going to look for you and put you out of the room because what happens is it spoils the recording and it doesn't look very nice on my recording. Okay, so de-stress with chelated CalMag. It has vitamin D. This will help your body to beat stress. And when you want to know what to use, we are here to advise you. And I'm sure your parents can also be encouraged to advise you as well. We've talked a lot about mitochondria, and there you have them. Mitochondria are important, and other things that I just want to point out, such as aloe vera for the youth, good for the skin, good for stress, good for the digestive system. And now let us turn our attention to other products that we have that many of the youth might think this isn't important for me, but I want to emphasize just how important it is. And when you get to the age of 17 and a half, turning 18, you can actually start looking at more of why you need to use good cleaning products that will not cause inflammation in your body, all right? Because inflammation damages the body. It causes all those things that youth will get so concerned about, such as weight gain, accelerated skin aging, abnormal growth of healthy cells that you hear about because you see adults suffering from various diseases, all right? And you don't want to go down that road. So inflammation, that's where to begin to look and start with the things that you can control, such as your washing, your skincare, and this is a range that we have. For the visitors, if you have never seen this range, please turn to the person who has asked you to log in and ask for more details. But home and personal care is very important. And I just want to encourage you that, yes, you can change something. You can begin by agitating at home that let us change what we are washing with. I've seen a miracle happen. A 12-year-old told her mother to change the washing powder because she had escorted the mother to a presentation. And when the mother changed the washing powder, the whole family stood to benefit because the father, who had a foul temper, he was always coming home and really causing havoc because he was totally stressed out. He calmed down. And the result was that the whole family became much happier. So I'm speaking like this because I know that our youth can impact not only the family, but societies going into the future, well into the future. So for things to change, a different way of choosing is called for. And what can you do differently? I want each one of us to believe that there are solutions. We can start by setting goals and by believing that we can accomplish any goal if we believe it. We just need to get past the limiting beliefs which have been programmed into our subconscious minds. And remember what I said, we are not victims of genes. Genes of our genetics, in other words, but genes can switch on or express in response to the environment. And that's what we are encouraging the youth to be aware of these things and to connect these dots and to know that you can set goals and actually actualize them by being given that opportunity to do so. And that's what we are doing here, so that you can look at the wheel of life and let it guide you to your desired future. So what do we need to do? We need to become mindful, totally mindful of how we eat, how we look after ourselves, because mindful eating replaces self-criticism with self-nurturing. It replaces shame with respect for your own inner wisdom. And that was something said by a teacher and author. And what we need now to do is to understand why Neolife gives us supplements and why Neolife gives us cleaning and personal care products. Because indeed, your diet is important. You are what you eat. And the reality is that a lot of diseases are as a result of what we eat. So tell yourself, yes, I can do this. And I said, once you turn 17 and a half, start agitating to start your own business. Start saying, I want to make sure that my future is a bright one. And why 17 and a half, turning 18? Because you can start your own business at the age of 18. And remember, what we do in this family is that we do things as teams. And in this picture, we are told that you can go down alone, but you can't go up alone. So we are inviting the youth to belong to a team. And why are we doing that? Because you can have a new life. You can change your appearance. You can have energy and vitality. You will get information very similar and much, much more to what I have shared. This has just been a sneak preview of what you can open yourself up to between the ages of 12 and 20 and beyond, if you wish. And there are opportunities to prosper and to contribute to society. And what we are driving for is a movement, a united force where we leave a good legacy for the future. And in case you are out there as a youth and are wondering, oh my gosh, now I have to look for a job, and then you look for a job, which is a good thing to do. But then let's put a scenario where there are no jobs. Let's say there are many, many more graduates than they are jobs to absorb them. You can get started in this family so that you are an employment maker for yourself and not out there to seek employment. So I talked about goals. We have a ladder which all of us are invited to climb. Everybody can start as a distributor and head up the ladder. This is the first goalpost called director. But before that, you need to go through the steps and we will show you how. But you can start earning as you learn. Very, very important. So we are encouraging our youth. The entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity. That is what we are offering. Yes, you can. You can run your own nutrition business. And at this important time in your life as a youth, we are looking forward to working with you to make the world a healthier and happier place. And I hope as we discuss, we shall all see that this is totally possible. We are in the third, well, we are entering the third week of April. And actually, we are in the third week of April. Oh my gosh. And then next week, the health of dads and men generally. And then on the 29th, we shall have a Q&A. But today, I just wanted to give time to the youth that we can encourage you to seriously look at this opportunity. All right, thank you. I'm going to open it up for discussion now.